any further ado, we move on with our next speaker, who's a doctor called Naireen Daruwala, who's very active in the field of gender justice. And she's going to speak to us about gender justice, a reality of tomorrow. She's going to present to us about her thoughts, her ideas about how to make gender justice, actioning the thoughts that she's going to present to you today. So Dr. Naireen Daruwala, may we please have you up on stage. A big hand for her, ladies and gentlemen.
Women and children. We started the organization in the year 1999, and it was started by Dr. Armida Fernandez, who is a neonatologist and who really in her 30 years of her tenure in a municipal corporation hospital, she came across so many women who accessed hospital services but had no support back home. So as a doctor, they all would intervene and provide medical treatment to the woman. But invariably what happened was, when she was in a difficult situation, and when they asked her that why would you not have money for medicines, or why would you not want to go home, the woman revealed that no, I have no support back home. And probably that prompted her to start a service or to start an organization which would go beyond medical. So SNEHA is an organization which works on the issues of health of women and children, and we do a lot of psychosocial intervention for them. So my talk today is on the work that I have done for the last 15 years, and it is about gender justice and why do we even today, when we say that India is so forward and moving so fast, why is it that gender inequality remains a huge problem in our country? So United Nations, one of our MDG goals is to eliminate gender disparity in primary and secondary education. Preferably, they have said that by 2015, education should be available to all girls at parity with boys. But we all know, all of us are aware that how far have we really gone into providing this kind of equality to girls. Oxfam International has shown the disparity of gender equality in different spheres. One is education. 2/3 of all the children who are denied education are girls, even today. Women often work the most but are earning the least. And it is highly prevalent in our country where the wages that are given to women differ than what are given to men. And always there is a concept that men professionally, they are far more capable of earning and more than women. Women hold only 14% of world's government seats, and domestic violence is the biggest cause of injury and death to women even today. So in a country like ours where violence is so rampant and it is being faced, if you see the NFHS data, I have the data later on, I'll show you, every second woman has reported some or the other form of violence in her life. So in such a situation where violence is so intrinsic and so rampant, how do you really talk about equality issues in a country like ours? So the United General Assembly defines violence as any act of gender-based violence that results or is likely to result in physical, sexual or mental harm or suffering to the woman. So any kind of coercion is considered to be violence. Forms when we talk about the life cycle approach, a girl, even before she is born, there is violence faced. So prenatal sex selection which is battering during pregnancy. We have handled so many cases in Mumbai where women have come up, pregnant women have been just given blows in the stomach. So when we asked them that why did you come here, they said we had no other recourse. And my experience is, what I have seen in the last 15 years is, women do not access a counseling center or an organization unless and until she comes to a point where all her resources are depleted, she doesn't have anywhere to go to. That is the point when she will access help. So I have witnessed women coming with bleeding noses, huge dislocated hands, black eyes, and that is the point where they feel that they should ask for help, which is also not voluntary, but it is just out of no choice. Infancy is female infanticide, emotional and physical abuse, and differential treatment which is being meted out to boys and girls. Childhood is genital cutting, incest, and sexual abuse. Of the last 4-5 years, we have seen a lot of cases of incest and sexual abuse. And mostly the abuse is by a family member, mostly by the father. In adolescent dating and courtship issues, wherein violence is really one of the important factors, economically coerced sex, sexual abuse in workplace, rape, sexual harassment, and forced prostitution. In the reproductive age, women usually come to us in this age, which is between 18 to 40 years. This is most of the women who have approached us are between this age group. And the issues they face is domestic violence, intimate partner violence, or violence by family members, and old age. Old age issues are also many, because even in some communities in Mumbai, women may be having the house, but when she grows old, her husband is no more there, the family just disowns her and wants her to live on her own. So types of violence, when we say violence, we started out only with domestic violence. But in the second year, there was a case of a murder in one of the communities of Dharavi. And the murder that happened was of a young girl, 21-year-old girl, who was married and who was murdered by the local hoons in the community. And it happened in broad daylight. It happened, the two goons came to her house, beat her up, burnt her alive. But everyone was witnessing the crime, but no one really had the courage to stand up and kind of stop the crime. So at that point of time, our center where we work, we are based in the midst of the community. So there were about 25-30 people who came to us and said, look, this has happened and can you help? And we were very new at that point of time. We were in a public hospital, our center where we work. We are in a public hospital, so we didn't know what kind of a response to give. We could have got into any kind of public litigation, which Dr. Fernandez, the founder member, was quite worried about. But we thought a lot at that point that when we say that we are working on issues of violence, domestic violence is just a part of the work we do. But unless we do not cover all kinds of violence, how do you really help a woman? So we took a decision, and we henceforth, since 2002, we have been dealing with all forms of violence, and whichever woman who approaches us, whether it is a sexual assault case or a case of rape, murder, dowry, death, anything, we deal with them. So domestic violence, also known as intimate partner violence, is the most common form of violence in our country. And 70% of married women are victims of beating, rape, or forced sex. 55% of women suffer from domestic violence, especially in Bihar, UP, MP and other northern states. Not to say Maharashtra also has high rates of domestic violence. Rape, sexual harassment at workplace and mob violence. Of course, mob violence and violence in conflict situations are mainly related to communal violence, but definitely it really affects the woman, as we saw in the Godhra violence that happened, which was how many women have been affected due to that. Violence in empowerment systems. Today in the morning, I think I was talking to someone, the structural violence that happens all over in the structures that we have to deal with. You kind of go to a system, for example, a health system, a municipal operation. The hierarchy that the municipal operation has, it has changed today, but some years ago, the dean of the hospital would be a man. Why? Because he would be available for more time, he would be there available easily, and that is probably one of the reasons why a man was preferred to a woman. Things are changing, of course. I have given an example of a police officer who took a girl into Marine Drive police chowki, which happened in Mumbai, wherein this girl was taken into the chowki on the premise that she was sitting with her boyfriend outside near the sea. And when she was taken into the police station, she was raped. So where is the power? Where is the power lying even today? The power lies with the few who have the patriarchal mindset and who believe that, they rule the world. Violence against women and girls in India. This is the NCRB report, the National Crime Bureau report, which says crime has been recorded against women every 3 minutes in India. Every 60 minutes, 2 women are raped in India, and every 6 hours, a young woman is found beaten to death, burned, or driven to suicide. Recently, we are currently doing research on prevalence of violence in burn victims. So we have been doing research in Delhi with Safdarjung and in Mumbai with LEMG, Lokmanya Tilak General Hospital. And what we've seen is 70% of the victims who are burned have an history of violence. And it is so interesting to know that we consider violence as a very private matter. So when these women, when they are admitted to the hospital, most of the women have given a statement that it was suicide. But when they know that they are not going to be saved and they know that they are not going to live anymore, that is the point when they want to change the statement and get the in-laws and the husband fixed up. But it becomes too late by then because the woman dies, invariably the dying declaration is not taken and there is no justice received. So I want to show you this slide. I don't know how far can you really see, but if you see, the data has been categorized into violent crimes and crimes against women. Now, if you go to see in the violent crimes, it is rape and dowry death. Of course, dowry deaths are mostly due to burning. But the question here is that when you divide between violent crimes and the other crimes are kidnapping, abduction, molestation, sexual harassment, cruelty by husbands, importation of girls. Now, I have a question here which I have been asking for all these years, that when you say that a crime is not violent, what happens to a woman who dies on account of domestic violence, which is not, according to them, a violent crime? I can tell you we've handled 5 cases of murder wherein a woman has died on account of domestic violence which happened in her home. So would it be the right thing? Yeah, I'll finish. Would it be the right thing to divide these crimes in this way? And then you see the conviction rate. The conviction rate of all the crimes is only 26%. So I have been asked by so many people all over that women misuse the law. But tell me, when there is no uptake of the law, where are women going to go and misuse? So this is the impact. I've been told I have only 2 minutes, so I need to rush. The impact is definitely on women's health, on her mental, sexual, on her physical well-being, and also on her family. Because if she is not in the right state of mind, she cannot really make her family happy. So what should be an NGO's role? An NGO's role should be a multi-sectorial approach. That is what we do at SNEHA. We work at all levels. We provide direct intervention, counseling intervention to women and to perpetrators of violence. Counseling, when we do long-term counseling with women and the perpetrators, it does help in changing their mindset. We negotiate that violence is completely not done. And just 1 minute. So this is the direct, we do a lot of prevention activities in the community. We do a lot of training programs with the police and with the healthcare, with the legal aid system. And the challenges that we face are huge because funding remains a huge challenge all the time, and most of the time I have been told that women are okay, women can manage. If you want, we can give you funding for children, for education, but this is an issue where we cannot do anything. So, and there are many other issues, delayed justice. Justice is one big, the legal aid is one big problem for women who face violence. So I would like to end here and not take more time. Women and children are not dying because of a disease we cannot treat. They are dying because societies have yet to make the decision that their lives are worth saving. And this is an appeal to one and all, wherever you work. I think it's very, very important to work with women. Thank you very much.
Reds Conclave and Karmavir Puraskar, we have various awardees who have been working on this, which includes Malika Dutt, who's taken this campaign globally for breakthrough. We have also a nominee. She's not yet been given the award since we don't give the award in absentia. Her name is Somi Ali. She used to be she's an actor from Pakistan who's acted in Hindi movies also. And she is very active in the US today, and she's kind of rescuing several women and getting them to, empowering them to stand up for their rights. So happy to kind of, link you up with all of them.
Sure.
Several people who you probably meet over here who have a similar mindset to yours. Having said that, let's open the floor for questions. Do we have any questions for Nairi? You've seen some hard facts and figures over there about what's happening with gender issues. Yeah, Aditya Mumbai has a question for you. Do you want to?
Yeah. Yeah.
Dr. Daruwala.
Yes.
I think I'm a very peaceful person, but I get violent feelings when I read incidents in the newspaper and I see things like this happening against women.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a son, I'm a brother, I have a wife, I have 2 daughters. And if I get upset about something like this, I think every normal man should feel upset that things like this are being perpetrated and are continuing. Now, my question is actually in 2 parts. There are, of course, many more that keep rising, but I'll just restrict myself to these 2. One is, we're seeing a remarkable increase in the number of incidents that are coming to light. Is this because of an increase, a general huge spurt in actual incidents of violence against women? Or is it just partially, at least, an increase in the reportage of such cases by the media and by people taking interest in it, one. And if it is that, then this is a very deeply rooted and almost a traditional happening, crimes against women, because at the end of the day, I think it's just one sort of expression of power that men have to demonstrate against other men, against women, by being able to inflict harm on women. And the other is the role of mothers in educating and the upbringing of boys specifically. Because in the formative years, when the child's mind is being made up about his entire attitude to life and the elements within it, I'm sure in at least a lot of cases, the mothers play a vital role in conditioning the child. Of course, there are a lot of cases where they will see the father beating up the mother and nothing happening, and the mother will, if she's powerless to change her situation or her circumstances, she will take it for the sake of the family at large. And so I think that maybe the education of women to stand up against this themselves in whatever way they can and give them the support to do that. So that the children, the next generation, sees that this is wrong. This is not something that people will accept. I think that if some work is done on that, then maybe that would be a good solution. Maybe not the solution, but one of the parts.
I think I will answer your question second first, that you are absolutely right. Women education is the key to really bringing about this change. And as an organization, we do a lot of education and awareness on women's rights. But it's not easy. You know, we have around, over the years, we have around 150 women volunteers who were our clients earlier, and now they are helping other women in the community. But then to bring about that change and that enlightening is very difficult. So she may go and help another woman, but she herself is still not completely free to kind of think that, no, I am a woman by myself. I have a right to live a violence-free life. So I completely agree it has to be, and it's not only NGOs who can do the awareness. I think it has to be in all structures. So it has to be in our educational system. It has to be everywhere from where a child interacts in all systems. It's very important. NGOs play a part of that role by educating communities and all. But definitely, and boys, the most important, because the patriarchal mindset that we all live with is something that we need to change. And the first question is, yes, there is an increase in crime. Not that there were no crimes earlier, but at the same time, there is also an increase in the report time. Also because now we speak the language of human rights. Now we speak that please do not suffer, violence is not a private matter. So right now in Mumbai, from yesterday, we have started a 16 days campaign which is on making violence a public concern. So all over Mumbai at several places, we are organizing programs where we want to give this message that, look, if you are suffering from violence, speak out. And people who witness violence in public places, please intervene. Please save a woman's life or a situation by intervening. So, but the urban stresses, especially with the urban stresses, yes, we have seen, it is my experience, that violence definitely is precipitated due to several other reasons. What I said, what I showed in my PowerPoint was the same thing, that conviction in a country is delayed. So what happens is, a woman may, for example, the laws are very few. 498A was the only law for so many years. In the section wherein, IPC section wherein the woman would apply under cruelty. But now since 2005, we have a Domestic Violence Act, which was earlier a bill. And what happened was that it took a long time for the bill to pass because they felt that if the woman is beaten up once, it is not domestic violence. So women's organizations had to lobby that the woman may be beaten up once, but she may lose her life. So that is not domestic violence. The law now that we have is far more comprehensive, which talks about violence in natal family, in matrimonial home, and in living relationships. And it provides respite to the woman. But even then, our experiences, these laws, to implement them and to get them off the ground for every woman is very, very difficult. So what happens is the woman will apply. She will file a case in the court. But because it is very time consuming, in between she will come and say, no, I don't want to do anything. I want to withdraw the case. Please. Anyway, there is no justice. Anyway, nothing is coming out. I don't want to waste my time going all the way. So as NGOs, we have been lobbying a lot for better implementation of these laws. That is the only thing I can say.
Thank you, Dr. Nairn Narwala. So it was a pleasure having you.